Amazing. Thank you very much, our distinguished viewers at home, wherever it is you're connecting with us from on this Black Mental Health Matters show. We're very excited to have you. I want you to be rest assured that you're going to have a very amazing show with us today, as our guest is very well loaded and ready. And equally, ourselves at the Black Mental Health Matters, we are very set to give you the best of our time today on today's show. While I know that our guest is very ready and we're much ready to kickstart the show for today, please let me have you understand that we are streaming live on Tunachiki TV, also on the Black Mental Health Matters YouTube channel. We are also live on the United States of Africa and Facebook and Twitter platforms. You can also catch up with us and join the show on the LinkedIn Live. All of these channels are available for you to catch up with us, and feel free to join and enjoy the conversation today. Let me warmly welcome our distinguished guest. She's awesomely very ready to take us on today's ride. And just so you know, today's show is going to be on the prevailing risk factors of children's mental health. We can't have a complete conversation around mental health without putting in perspective the children. They are a very important population that we can't but help, put them in consideration on how the whole issue around mental health revolves and tells around them. So we're going to be talking largely today on the issue relating with the children's mental health. And I have a very amazing woman, a very amazing personality, a very amazing guest that will be taking us on today's distinguished ride. Ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, please, I'd like you to meet my guest. Let me quickly run through her biography. She has a lot that you need to know about her so that you can give me all of your attention on today's show. She is a woman you need to listen to on this subject matter as we discuss the prevailing risk factors, that relates to children's mental health. Our guest is no other person today than Dr. Monique Rodgers. She is an international best-selling author, a global speaker, a prophetess, ordained minister, educator. She's an entrepreneur and a woman on the mission for God. It will interest you to also know that Dr. Monique Rodgers, a first generation colleague, student, she didn't stop there. She went on to obtain her Master's of Science degree from Colorado Technical University, where she maintained a 3.97 GPA. Amazing. She then loved education so much that she went on to pursue her doctorate degree at Colorado Technical University in global leadership. She has traveled to 6 nations in Africa, Mexico, Peru, Jamaica, Haiti, Thailand. Just to mention a few. She's currently a writing coach for Beyond the Book Media. She is an amazing international distinguished scholar. She is the founder of the Repairing the World Through the World Ministries, okay, at North Carolina. You must also know that our distinguished guest today, Dr. Monique, has been a guest on radio programs such as Rochelle Speaks. She is a TV host for the Healing Zone on Watch 2. She's also a podcast. She also has a podcast called The Love Walk. She has a weekly broadcast called the Power Launch Broadcast on the Glory Network every Friday. She's also has got a TV program that is aired called The Miracle Zone on DCBN Broadcasting. There's a lot that our guest, Dr. Monique, is doing. Amazing work she's doing, amazing books out there she's got.
And there's just so much I would like you to know about our guest today. Just for want of time, I'm going to again be mentioning some few things around and about her biography, just so you know, and so that we can get all of our attention on today's show as we discuss the prevailing risk factors, around the children's mental health. It's very important again that I do also mention that she has a couple of books that we'll be looking at some of them at the course of this show today. Dr. Monique, it's my pleasure, Zion, to have you on today's Black Mental Health Matters show. You're most welcome, man.
Thank you so much, Zion. I'm so honored to be here on this program with you. Hello, listening audience. It's a pleasure to meet all of you and be on here as well. I am excited to meet you and see you and connect with you. And I'm looking forward to just an amazing program broadcast with each of you on today. Listening to that bio, I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, got so exhausted listening because I'm like, oh my gosh, how much have I done?
Oh
So
yeah.
so honored.
You're a woman par excellence, a
Thank
woman with many parts. So we were happy to have you today. We're happy to
Thank you
host you
so
today
much.
on this
Oh,
show.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. And hello to my Nigerian family. Oh my goodness, I love Nigeria. My brother he is marrying a beautiful woman from Nigeria. So I am honored to say hello to everyone in Nigeria. I love Nigeria. Such an
Thanks a
honor to
lot.
be here. Yes.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing your time and joining us on this program today. Quickly, Dr. Monique, I want to know your perception when we talk about the issue of prevailing risk factors, that deals with children's mental health. What comes to your mind? That is one. And again, I want you to set up this conversation rolling by
Mhm.
having us understand how very important is this conversation. How very important is it for us to have conversations around children's mental health in this time at the moment across the globe.
Absolutely. I have learned just from working with children and being, assistant at times and an educator with children that it's important to understand what their mental health is and understand what they're going through because a lot of times they're not going to voice it verbally to you. So you have to really understand that child, understand the dynamics of what they're going through. And so I did take a course in child psychology and it helped me to really analyze and understand the dynamics behind the understanding of the mindset of children and what the issues are that evolve within them. And so a lot of times there are behaviors, that children will begin to act out in if they are experiencing abuse. You may find times that the child may be going through problems such as withdrawal. Maybe they don't socialize as much or interact as much. So these are warning signs that there is something that is going on with the child. Also, if there are issues that that bother them that are long term, if they're not expressing themselves well in terms of someone passing away, maybe they've lost a mother or father or a sibling. These are things that affect children mentally that need to be addressed. They need to go through a several period of grief counseling. They need to be able to have a time to talk these things out with. We call it like toy therapy, where you sit down with that child and actually do a puzzle with them, and you may play with a toy with them and find out, hey, what's going on with this, how do you feel about this, and the child is able to communicate with the toys and they'll be able to talk to you in that facet. But children go through a lot of things. I know for myself personally, growing up, I did encounter physical abuse from my stepfather, and it caused a lot of issues mentally for me as well, that caused me to kind of draw back and not really interact as well as I needed to, as it pertains to like men and relationships and everything. There was always this stickler, like, is this man going to hit me? Is this man going to hurt me? Is this man going to take advantage of me? So there's always those mental health factors that play in as you are abused as a child. Also, children that are abused sexually, there's just an array of things that happens within them as well, that they battle different issues growing up. And so they may become sexually promiscuous. They may, find times where they're being bothered in different areas of their life. They may have gender issues, what have you. So there's a lot of things that happen to children that are affected as risk factors in their lives that happen early on. And a lot of times parents don't see these things because either they're busy, they're working, or they're just giving children hand devices such as tablets and phones, and they're not actually spending the quality time that is needed with the child to examine them and find out what's going on. So, as an educator, I've had an opportunity to be around children that have had either had mental health issues. I've worked with special needs children. I work with children from all backgrounds. But it's so important, I mean, that these children are loved and cared for, and that these things are recognized head on, that these issues that the children are dealing with are recognized early on so that you can get the
Okay,
counseling
okay. Dr. Monique, just a minute before you continue.
Mhm.
I appreciate all the amazing perspectives you're bringing all of this conversation through. But what do you have to say about vulnerable children? What is your take about children that we want to classify as vulnerable children? I want to see if there's going to be any specialized, attention or that can be channeled towards the children we might want to consider as vulnerable, either vulnerable due to disabilities, vulnerable due to the environment they are confined to, vulnerable due to some form of diseases, vulnerable due to some of the background that they have to suffer with or live with. But what's your take about bringing in vulnerability, into this conversation as with
Mhm.
regards to children?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a nephew that actually has autism. And so a lot of times children that are artistic are not able to communicate in the facet of the level at which other children are, but they're genius in so many levels. And so the vulnerability in that factor is when they're in classroom settings, when they're around different people, sometimes, they may be loving and sometimes they may be affectionate. And then there are other children, that are also vulnerable as well, where they're in settings also. And maybe they've come from a background where parents don't hug them or are not as affectionate as needed, so that child may be vulnerable if their love language is physical touch. They may be one that go out and want to hug people, but want to touch people, want to be around people, and so they're open. And so a way of protecting that child then is to understand what their love language is, understand the dynamic of what is needed for us for their needs, right? Because their needs are so important for that particular child. And so sometimes the needs that they have not experienced at home, maybe the parent is not giving them enough attention, maybe the parent is not there enough for them. And so a lot of children go through a lot of mental battles because of this. If no attention is given at home, they're going to do everything in their power to go in the classroom and seek attention. They're going to do everything in their power to sometimes join gangs, join sororities, join different clubs, so that they're getting the attention that is needed for their lives that they're not getting at home. So they're seeking it outer to get that attention that is needed in their lives.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that. So that means, given from your further explanation, the issue of prevailing risk factors that children might have to contend with that influences their mental health, there's a lot that have to do with the vulnerability of the child.
Yes. Yes, it has to do with the vulnerability of the child. Because first off, if the child, because for instance, I had a relative that had a long-term illness. So the child has something such as diabetes, if they have cancer in their life, if they're suffering from something in their life, that is a risk factor. Because then the child is going to have fear. Mommy, daddy, am I going to live to see my birthday? Mommy or daddy, am I going to be able to still see my friends because I have this terminal illness? A lot of times they may have experienced a death from a family member, such as a sibling. Mommy When will I see my brother or sister again? And they have to process that they're not going to see their sibling anymore. So these are risk factors that parents have to really deal with children, because if they're not accepting the fact that their sibling is gone, if they're still expecting the sibling to come back and be there with them, these are things that need to be addressed. Counseling is definitely needed. The child may also need to get some type of therapy going on to kind of help them get through the grief process that they're going through. Also, if they're being there has been a separation or divorce in the home, that is a risk factor, because the child then is going to say, how am I able to interact now? All I know is my mom, all I know is my dad, all I know is my family, so the dynamic now is broken in half. So that begins to bring the child to a place of brokenness, and they have to learn how to deal with those things. So the vulnerability then comes in. Maybe I should hang around other people in my neighborhood. Maybe I should go here and there. Maybe I should start making me some new friends. Whatever that is, the child is then developing relationships with other people to try to gravitate to what has been lost, to try to fill that void. And so I find also that children also that are bullied go through this as well. Children also that are abused go through different things as well. And just the mental health in general of children. We need to make sure that we are constantly praying for our children, constantly covering our children, constantly talking to our children and having conversations with them. Listen, your child is not just there to just be a showcase. You actually have to communicate, hug your children, love your children, have a conversation. How was your day at school? How are things going? Hug them and love on them. And this helps to build the mental ability of the child by having that closeness and bond that is needed, because children need that connection. Children need to know that you're proud of them. If they've done something scholastically at school, if they've done something that is very well, they're very gifted. I find that it's a lot of times children that are very gifted are often sometimes even overlooked by parents, but are celebrated by other people. And so if your child is one that is very gifted, if your child is one that is driven and motivated, this is something that you don't want to overlook, right? Because that child is gifted in so many areas that you want to make sure that you celebrate them. You want to make sure that you are honing into the skills that they have, and you want to make sure that you are being there for them as a parent.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dr. Monique. I really appreciate all of your submissions, and I mean, quite amazing, very very much amazing. I want to ask, what is the place of social inclusion in trying to look at all of these prevailing risk factors that influences or that has impact on the mental health of children? What is the place of social inclusion for an average child, for them to be able to have a positive mental health in this day?
In this day and time, children just need to have interaction. If we isolate children, that is going to really affect their mental health and stability. And so you need to be able to have children around other children. Have them not just around children of the same color, if you will. They need to be around other colors, other nationalities, other cultures, so that they can experience other things. If they're just, in one environment, they're not going to know what it's like to be around other children of different nationalities, of different cultures. And so it's good to get that children. Get your child in an area where they're able to experience that of other cultures and environments that helps to stabilize that child. And so I found, just in general, from connecting with
Okay,
other children as well, that it's
amazing.
important for them to be
All
around
right.
different people that
Thanks a lot.
empower them and help them in their mental state of being to be successful. And even in classrooms, even in I found that sports is very helpful for mental health, and that clubs, get that child involved. If they're really gifted in math, get them in a math club. If they're really gifted in science, get them in the science club. If they're really gifted in gaming, get them allow them to hone their skills in that. Or if it's English, if it's spelling, whatever it is, help that child to really pull out the skills and abilities so that they can be even more successful in that. And I found that being an educator, those are definitely needed. But teachers are usually the biggest cheerleaders for their students, right? Because they care about their needs and they want to see them socially adept to all that is around them. And so I found that even in the environments as such, that children have experienced so many risk factors because they have been like ignored, or they may have not been in an environment where they're celebrated or cherished. But we need to really, really hone into those things and really start being there for children even more. The pandemic did allow, if you will, time for people to really spend with their children, but sometimes people even ignored that and was not there for their child. So the mental health and state of the being of the child is so essential to making sure that they're taken care of daily and that they're loved, that they're celebrated around other children and other cultures.
Thank you very much. I mean, thanks a lot for that amazing submission. So, do you agree with the school of thought that a social inclusion turns largely on the relationship and the productiveness of an average child?
Mhm.
Do you agree with that?
For social, you said social inclusion.
When we want to look at the productiveness, the productivity of an average child, whether in school or in the family, whatever the productiveness that is expected of a child, do you think the exposure and the freedom he enjoys for proper social inclusion, does this help in any way?
Yes, absolutely. It does help because if the child has freedom, a lot of times parents are holding the children, in a box because they want them to be what they want them to be and want them to become the child that they want them to become. So you kind of have to allow your child as they're growing up to have a little bit of freedom to have their personality kind of come out a little bit and be themselves, because that helps to create the character inside of them that they're developing at the time as a child, and that they're being inclusive to those around them and learning of different people that are in their circle, that they learn how to be themselves, because you don't want your child to be exactly you, right? You want them to have their own personality. They want to have their own social circle where they're able to be included around other people.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So, I wanted to please help educate us when we are talking about prevailing, risk factors, vis-a-vis how it relates to the child's mental health. Are there maybe some of these risk factors that stands out, that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be addressed, because we believe that the issue of mental health, is something that develops with the growth of the child. Do you think there are some of these risk factors that can be properly attended to at the development stage of the child to help the child enjoy positive mental health at adulthood?
Yes, I've come to understand that going through mental health factors of my own as a child, that growing up, if you allow your child the social connection that is needed in relationships, going to college, doing business, connecting with other people, this allows that child to grow and develop and become successful head on. So if you get your child in clubs, interactive events, and do different things around family members, connect with people in the community, and have other family members come around that child, it helps to build a dynamic of them to be even more successful in their life.
Okay, thank you a lot. Thanks a lot for that input. I want us to look at risk. Okay, to mental health over the life course. Now this risk, I want us to look at. I want us to look at it according to different stages of development, and I want us to take it in life course perspective. Now, when a child is growing up, exposure to some of the things he sees and experiences in the home, in the family. Okay,
Yes.
for example, when you have to live with your parent or with your guardian who abuses drugs. Okay, and we understand the place of drug substance abuse in mental health. Now, this is just an example.
I'm just using drug substance abuse as an example. There could be other spectrums of activities happening within the home. It could even be child labor. It could be maltreatment, right? Among other spectrums of things that a child is exposed to in a home.
Mhm.
How do you think a child can be able to develop coping mechanisms to help him or her in growing and having or living a mentally healthy life?
Oh, I've seen a lot of children that have grown up in homes that have battled with parents that were either on drugs or on alcohol or on substance abuse. That the child, has they have tendencies to act out, or they may end up being on drugs or alcohol themselves. But then I've also seen children that have surpassed that. And have been in homes with parents that were on drugs and alcohol, and they said, "I don't want to be like my parents, so I'm going to change and become better, and so I want to work towards becoming something great in life." And so they overcome those obstacles, and then you find those children that succumb to it, and then they become just like their parents that were on drugs or alcohol, and they get the same mental health. So it becomes then a generational curse to them, because they're taking on the same attributes, doing the same thing that their parents went through. And they begin to take on, if you will, those demons that hold them in bondage, that they need to get freed from and delivered from. So a lot of times children are susceptible to the things that are passed down from generations. If there was a generation of a man beating on a wife, if there's a generation of divorce, if there's a generation of substance abuse, if there's a generation of alcohol that's coming down their family line, sometimes the child may be susceptible to that. Or if prayers haven't been prayed over them, if they don't come from a religious background, if they don't come from people that are praying for their lineage, for deliverance to happen for them, then they're going to be a child that ends up, being a part of, drugs and alcohol without even having the ability to fight it. And so I've seen that a lot in my own family members. That have been in jail, that have been on drugs, that have gone through so many things in their lives. And a lot of times it's just the whole environment itself. The child was never exposed to people that told them anything different. That's all they saw, because we were raised in the projects. Like, that's all everyone did was drink and smoke and different things. So a lot of times if they're around that environment, it's going to cause them to become that environment. So the child needs to be like centered around people that help them to grow and develop and get away from those type of things, and help them to see that there is better for their lives. And so I've seen a lot of times that children that go through this as a young child, they experience mental health challenges because of what has been faced in their home, the abuse that happens, the drug abuse that happens, and so forth.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a
You're
lot,
welcome.
Monique.
You're
Thanks a lot,
welcome.
Monique. Thanks a lot. What will be a maybe in just few words? What would be your counsel for guardians and parents of children who are predisposed to some of these prevailing risk factors that you have mentioned?
If they have if the parent has or guardian has been exposed to these things, to me it creates, like, if you will, an opportunity for them to love that child even the more. Because I went through abuse, I do everything in my power to make sure that I don't see any child in my area abused or going through any type of abuse, because you want to protect that child. You want to make sure that you're an advocate for that child, and so you want to make sure that you love them. So parents can continuously love the child, talk to the child. Guardians can spend time with the child, go to the park, bond with them, paint with them, draw pictures with them, find out what they like. Children have personalities. Find out what it is that their love language is. Find out if they love quality time. Find out if they love spending time with other people. Find out if they love being serving. Maybe you can involve them in different community connections. We can involve them and get in clubs and activities to become better. So because parents and guardians have been through these type of things, it helps them to really correlate and build relationships even more with that child.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. What's your take? What's your take with ratio of the increasing rate of children that are actually predisposed to suffering from mental disorders, even as young adults before they even get to the adulthood. What's your take about, what's your concern about the growing rate of the population of children or adolescent or young adults that are having to struggle with their mental health?
Well, I find that a lot of children that are raised like in the inner city, as I have been raised, that there's a lot of mental health issues. But then at the same time, in suburban areas as well, there's a lot of mental health issues that happen there, because maybe even the child is being like, because they have money doesn't mean that they're okay, because the child is just like blanketed them with like gifts and different things, but they're not actually loving them and spending time with them. They're just putting a band-aid on them, like, hey, this is money for you, just go do this, go do that. And so I found a lot of children are neglected in that area. And then there's children that are neglected and without not having even in homes of meeting their needs, not having food, not having shelter. So these play a huge role in the life of the well-being of that child. If they're not eating, if they're not being taken care of, if they're there's neglect that's happening, then that's going to cause a lot of mental health issues for that child, because they're going to grow up feeling abandoned. They're going to grow up feeling that this person is not going to be here for me. If your father left you as a child, you're going to grow up with abandonment issues, like I did. God had to really help me with that, and now my father is in my life. But at the time growing up, it was painful to not have that in my life. So it creates kind of like an abandonment hole that children go through. So if one parent is missing, the child is going to go through many facets in their life, where they're going through abandonment, going through hurt, going through pain, and they're always going to be like kind of in the area of codependency, wanting wanting other people to fill the voids in their life. So there's a lot of dynamics that are included with that, and helping the child to really cope and understand the dynamic of what is happening in
Thanks.
their lives.
Oh, thanks a lot, Monique. I really appreciate all of your submissions and all of your points trying to educate us on the prevailing risk factors, that our children stand over in terms of their mental health. Now, please, in case you just join in, please feel free to drop your comments. Feel free to drop your questions if you have some. If you have comments, we appreciate also to read your comments. Thank you a lot for following us here. In case again you're wondering where you can watch, you can join us on the LinkedIn Live, you can join us on our Facebook and our Twitter and the YouTube. Please feel free to drop in your comment. We appreciate reading your comments, and then we will surely like to read out some of the comments as we progress before we round up. And again, if you have questions that you want our amazing guests to drop some words to, please feel free to drop those questions. We can guarantee you that we'll look into that. Again, back to you, Dr. Monique. Would you like to mention maybe just a few? Okay, I know we have dealt extensively on some of the prevailing risk factors. Would you like to mention some of the commonest mental health concerns, maybe mental health disorders that
Yeah.
children tend to experience in this generation, that is a growing concern to their academics? We want to touch base with some of these mental health or disorders that are already a serious threat to the academics, to the education of an average child. Would you want to mention some of these mental health concerns that an average child, who is already been exposed to some of the risk factors we have mentioned, are likely to be suffering from?
Yes, absolutely. I know from being a child myself that I went through eating disorders because of what I went through in my life. And so for a long time, I was starving myself and doing. I had bulimia for a while, just trying to like go cope through having some type of control in my life, because there was everything was so chaotic. And so a lot of children do go through eating disorders in their lives, and then there's a lot of children that also go through like depression. I've seen a lot of kids that come to classrooms, and one child that I had was a cutter. She would go to the bathroom and she would come back, and I would see like her hand would be harmed, and I would have to like reach out to her and talk to her. And so children go through many health challenges, as well as battles in their mind, where they are sometimes cutters. They're going through eating disorders, depression, There's also post-traumatic stress disorder that children go through. There's also anger issues that children experience. I was working with one child that would immediately, if they didn't get their way in the classroom, they would act out and just a rage would come upon them. So children have anger. There's depression. There's also suppression where they're not letting any emotions out. So that in itself is a warning sign that there's something mentally going on as well. And then also, I've seen a lot of children that have had to cope with just being able to be themselves, and so they have identity crisis going on. They have different things going on in their lives. So it's a lot of issues mentally that children deal with that they end up dealing with later on in life as well if they haven't addressed it at early on in a young age. Thankful to God, I was able to be in a church family that prayed for me and helped me through my deliverance when I was in my 20s of getting free from eating disorders, because that is something that will take children out. Like I've seen children at young ages now starving themselves, not eating, trying to be small and fit in and what have you to gain some type of control in their life. So if it's not dealt with early on, if it's not sought after, if it's not helped and addressed, there are people that actually die from eating disorders. There's actually people that end up committing suicide. So children battle with mental disorders such as suicide, depression, anxiety. I faced that myself, where I've had anxiety issues from what I've been through in my life. Anxiety battles going in your life of knowing, like, is this person going to be here? Are you going to leave me? Or are you going to go do this or what have you? So there's that bondage that happens in our life because of what we've gone through as children. And so I've seen a lot of children that have faced these mental battles. I've seen a lot of children that have gone through this in my classrooms, and I've seen a lot of people in my family that have dealt with this, and I personally have dealt with a lot of these mental issues as well.
Yeah.
Are we paused?
Submissions. I'm a little bit worried about the growing. I understand that suicide is largely been recorded among adults, but I'm suicide lately among children and young adults.
Yes, I've seen a lot of
Some
instances where.
few calls at our office here in.
Yes, a lot of children are being bullied at school. A lot of children are being bullied because of anything in their life that's different from other people. They don't understand them, so they're bullied because of this. And this causes the child to go home and say, they're on social media and they're not getting the likes or the follows that they want. Sometimes they go through mental issues because of that. So there's a lot of things that play into the role of that child, because being accepted is so important in our society. And a lot of times that child is not gaining the acceptance that's needed, not gaining the love that is needed, not gaining what is the essential health of them and their well-being mentally, then they're going to reach out in other facets and try to find that somewhere else. And a lot of times a lot of children commit suicide and so forth because of this. And I find it really sad at times to see these things happen, but they do, because they're overlooked. Parents aren't spending time with their children. Mentors are not being there as needed. And then there's guardians that are not looking after their child and their well-being.
Okay, thanks a lot. Sorry, the network seems to be a little bit distorted,
That's
but
okay.
then thanks for your submission. I'm really worried with the growing concerns around suicide. Suicide. Couple of calls from parents who have couple of calls, even from young see that
Mhm.
the children deal with the immediate community where they spend most of their times. What do you think we can really do in terms of educating these these bodies, these paths that the children, directly or indirectly have to interact with on a daily basis. How can these paths be impact of these risk factors on children's mental health?
Well, the thing that to really address in those issues, if it's suicide attempts, if it's trauma, if it's eating disorders, if it's post traumatic stress disorder, if it's anxiety, these things need to be seen in the child. The parent needs to be able to see these things going on, and a lot of times it's not being seen. And the reason why it goes on for so long in the life of that child is because no one is noticing that it's happening. And so I really feel strongly that a lot of times we really have to take our noses out of our phones, like, and really spend that time needed with that child and make sure that they're okay. A lot of times parents are, making sure that their well-being is fine, but you also have to make sure that the well-being of that child is okay. Sometimes children are not always going to verbally express, "Mommy, I'm not okay. Mommy, or Daddy, this is happening. Mommy, this our guardian, this is what's happening in my life." And so, we found that grandparents are sometimes taking care of the children. So, grandma, this is not going well with me. And so, children need to be able to find some kind of verbal aspect of speaking that something is wrong to be able to address that need, or the parent needs to be able to discern that this is going on with your child, or so a prayer team or pastor or someone needs to reach out and say, "Hey, is everything okay at home? Is the child okay? There seems to be withdrawals happening, that the child is not communicating as often as they used to, because if they're drawing back, if they're not connecting, if they're not talking socially like they were before, if they just kind of just like, distance themselves completely from others and not talking anymore, something is wrong. That's a red flag. We need to notice what those red flags are and catch them. Because if you are able to catch it head on, if you're constantly praying over your children before you send them out, constantly praying. That's why I created a group on Facebook called Praying for Children all over the world daily, right? Because children need prayer. We have to pray for children because there are demons that are trying to battle with that child daily. There are things going on in the life of them that needs to be handled. And if we're able to notice them, if we're able to find out what those are, we can connect head on and be able to pray about it, and literally rescue that child from the state and being of what they're facing. We can help them to address the issue and help them to become better at what they're experiencing and get out of that mindset. A lot of times the mindset that they're in, they don't want to be in that mindset. They don't want to experience anxiety. They don't want to
Thank you.
end up killing themselves.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot, Dr. Monique.
you're welcome.
Thanks a lot. Just in trying to wrap up the conversation, we're drawing to a close. I want to quickly just say here that you see, whether you are a parent, whether you're a teacher, whether you are a member of a family as a sibling, every one of us have a role to play of us have a very vital role to play in helping to mitigate or in helping to create measures that can cushion all of these prevailing risk factors that children around us are faced with on a daily basis that have remained a threat to their mental health. So whether you are a co-student, a colleague, whether you are a sibling, whether
May, I think you're muted. May, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I was actually muted. I was saying, parents, whether we are teachers, whether we are siblings in a family, whether we are colleagues, or whether we have our friends of us play a very critical role in building a mentally healthy child. Every one of us, there's a lifestyle you can put up in your neighborhood, there's a lifestyle you can put up in your community, in your family, that can help build a mentally. We must understand that we all have a critical role to play in building a mentally healthy child. We're very much interested in having a generation that is mentally have in perspective for will be in proper view. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Monique. Would you like to give us your words? What are your words, to encourage all our listeners out there on various platforms right
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to
now,
include.
the prevailing risk factors that children are exposed to that stands a risk for them in living a mentally healthy life?
Yes, absolutely. I want to just say that one of the ways that that I was discovered what I was going through with anorexia and was actually by a teacher in my classroom. What she made sure that I was okay, because I was constantly coming to class. I was running track and I was getting thinner and thinner. She actually noticed and recognized that I was going through these things. So teachers, it's important that you notice that things are going on with your students. If you see a child that's coming to class and they're not connecting socially like they were before, or things are going on, notice those things. Reach out and then find ways to help that child. And what the teacher did was she was there for me. She made sure I was okay, and she reached out to the school psychologist. She reached out to my mother, because it was important that she knew that I was a gifted child and I'm always making A's and B's, that something was going on. So that teacher was able to find out, about my eating disorder early on and catch it. A lot of times people don't catch it early on, that there's something going on, and they end up dying because of these things. So it's really good to recognize and notice that those things are happening and that they're occurring. So one of the things I want to say to the listening audience, first off, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening and being a part of our LinkedIn community today, and being a part of this conversation. One of the ways that I want to help to increase the notice and awareness that this is happening, as far as eating disorders, as far as anxiety, as far as mental disorders, whatever it is, grief, loss of parent, whatever is going on, recognize these things. Make sure that you are paying attention. Literally take your nose out of your phone. I hate to be so blunt about it, but take your nose out of your phone. Make sure that things are going okay for that child, and make sure that you are there. Make sure that you are present. If you're spending time with your child and all the time you're doing is like posting on social media, that's not good quality time. Have a conversation. Have a picnic. Have a day where you leave your phones aside. The only time you use it is to take a picture. Have a really bonding moment. This helps to build mental health for children, and this helps to build stamina for that child later on, where they know that they're celebrated and cherished, and they know that you honestly care about them and their well-being. So being able to recognize early on that there are risk factors that are happening, and being able to get that child to a therapist, get that child to a counselor, and begin to start praying early on that as these things are going on in their lives, and then recognizing it and doing
Thank,
something about
thank,
it. So it's important to do that.
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
The Black Mental Health Matters weekly is really, really amazing to be our guest today. I have the understanding that you have amazing books. You have amazing books that are already out there on some of the leading online book stores. Would you like to tell us one or two things about some of the books you have?
Yes, absolutely. My newest book that is out now is called Accelerate. Is my newest bestseller that I have out now.
Some of
And
the
so this This book, Accelerate, is actually available on Amazon, and you can purchase it on as a on Kindle and Amazon as a paperback. It is one of my best-selling books that I have available now. That is flying off the charts. You can get a personal copy from me. You can send me it if you want to purchase it via Cash App. Send me a DM on Instagram or on LinkedIn, and I'd love to get this book out to you. Or you can reach out to Daniel. He can get the information that is needed. And so I really would like to help you accelerate in all that God is doing in your life. This is one of my top books that's going global. It is actually in Nigeria, May. Someone I sent this book to Nigeria, so it's for the first time. It's the first country that it's went to after America was Nigeria. And so I have other books that I've published as well. Another book that I have coming out now will be I Am Black History, is a collection of poems that will be released this month on Amazon. And I also have Breaking Writer's Block. I'm also going to be doing a master class teaching on this, where I get to the nitty gritty of why there are mental barriers stopping you from writing that actually need to be broken in order for you to successfully write that book and get that book published. And so that is one of my newest books that will be released on this month that is coming out. And I have 14 other books that are already available as well, and that are working on being published.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. That's why I said that
Thank you. Thank
you are
you so
indeed a
much.
woman of many parts. And I mean you've really
Thank you so
continue to
much.
be a blessing to humanity. Thanks the Lord for joining us today. In case you missed out of the whole conversation and maybe you're just joining, we like you to please, you can always give us a DM get a copy of these show today. You can also download on our YouTube channel. You can download the copy of this conversation on the YouTube channel so that you can are currently standing and influencing the mental health of an average child. Really appreciate your time. Please time. And like we said, please understand that you as an individual to helping build a mentally healthy child. Anywhere you find a child in your family, in your community, in your society, children who are vulnerable, children with disabilities, children who are exposed to harassment or harsh labor, please understand ensuring that they and until again we come your way very mentally healthy and keep in touch with us. Please visit any of our social media platforms and enjoy a lot more information around mental health. It is again my pleasure being your host today. I want to please have you to enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Blessed day. Questions and you feel you have not gotten answers, or maybe you've not been able to like drop your comments, please you can drop that. I like to please again give our distinguished to give us your final thoughts.
Yes. And so I just wanted to thank you all
Your
so much
final
for being. Thank you so much for being here on today. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. You all can follow me on LinkedIn. You can add me, Dr. Monique Rodgers, on LinkedIn. So I'd love to connect with each of you. And all of you can also follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter at Dr. Monique7 and on Instagram at Dr. Royalty7. I would love to connect with all of you. I'm also have an authors group here on LinkedIn that you can join. It's called Women Authors. Those of you that are on here, and I also have a club on Facebook called Dr. Monique Rodgers Book Club that I would love for you all to be a part of, that are on here as well. So thank you so much for watching and being a part of this amazing program. Listen, make sure that you're not overlooking children. Make sure you're constantly making sure the well-being of the child is okay, because it's ever so important that you be that extra watchful eye that is needed, because there's always someone that needs your help. And maybe the child is not physically saying help, help, but if you can just see it and know it, see, like there's a saying that says, see it and say something about it. So this is the opportunity for you to see it and say it and help that child so that they can be rescued early on from the mental barriers that they're being faced. Because there's so many children that are going through bullying, going through so much in their life, but you can be the voice and the advocate that is needed for that child for such a time as this. So God bless each of you. Thank you, Amay, for having me on here. I'm so honored to be a part of this, and I'm honored to God to meet all of you. And I hope that we can stay connected. And I look forward to hearing your testimonies of what God is doing in your life, and all that He is doing in the mental well-being of all children around the world. Thank you so much for having me. And remember, pick up your copy of Accelerate on Amazon. It is $15. You can order it directly from me as well. I would love to give you a signed copy of this, or you can reach out to me on how to get this book as well. Thank you all. Have a great day. I'm not sure. Amay, are you still with us? Let's see. I think I might be there. Well, everyone, I think Amay is having a little bit of technical challenges on the other side, and that's okay. I just want to thank you all so much for being a part of this amazing program. I forgot to mention that you can also follow me on Clubhouse at Dr. Monique 7, and I would love to connect with you there. I also have a club on Clubhouse called Audacious Storytelling that I would love you to follow and be a part of. And so, thank you again for watching this amazing program on mental health, and I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed day on purpose. And thank you so much for being a part of this community today. And remember, be that watchful eye. Look out for that child. Look out for the well-being of that child and help them to be all that they need to be. And you can be the extra eye that is needed. We're thankful for you watching our program today, and I hope that you have a wonderful and grand Saturday. Have some fun. Spend time with your child today. Go have some fun. Play. Have some ice cream. Go get a soda. Have a pizza and enjoy your day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.